Well, I guess we will get started here. Welcome to those who are popping in to our first webinar in a series, I'm calling it Tech Tuesday. And our first webinar today is called the 2023 Cyber Threat Landscape for Small Businesses, talking about making sure your IT systems are secure and up to date. Here today with my lovely co-host, Heather Capisaro. She is a channel enablement manager with True Methods, and myself, Michael, who is the owner of technical services at Sagewood Technical Services. So good afternoon to you, Heather.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Doing not too badly. It's warmed up, so I'm happy. And I know where you are, it's almost always warmer than here. So
Yes, it's usually warm. I think it's in the low 50s today in Fahrenheit because I'm in the United States. So pretty good for January.
for sure. So yeah, we'll get started into here. I'll let you start with the housekeeping and such like that, and then we'll dive right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for today, if anybody needs anything, there's a question and answer section in the menu for Teams. So you can always send a question there if you want sort of everyone to see it. There's a chat function as well. So I'll be keeping an eye on both of those things in case there are any questions or you wanted to contact either one of us individually. And so for Michael, if you wanted to email him at any point about anything, it's just Mike at sagewoodtech.ca. And then my email is heather@truemethods, TRUMETHODS.com. That's now a Kaseya company, so it's there's a couple different umbrellas that are in there. And we'd really encourage everyone to stick around until the end of the webinar today because there's going to be a chance to win sort of a bit of a prize here if you stick with us.
Oh, awesome. So we will jump into this and a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of the recent security breaches that we found out, just talk a little bit about those. We're going to talk obviously about the top SMB security threats and talk a little bit about the evolution of them because we're always hearing about threats and, sometimes we can get a little bit tired of them. Oh, we hear about this, we hear about this. But we're going to show you how these threats have evolved from one threat to the next threat to the next threat. So you can understand how the threat actors, call them hackers if you want to, really work and are constantly working to kind of foil our defenses. We'll talk about 7 prevention strategies and mitigation solutions. And we'll talk about how Sagewood Tech actually is able to help and what we can do to assist companies with making sure that they are actually safe. So let's jump right into it. And we'll talk first a little bit about security threats and some of the stuff that you may or may not have known of in the news. And I want to start by mentioning a lot of small businesses, come to me and they say, well, I don't hear a lot about, small businesses getting hit by this stuff, so I don't think it happens. And it's to note that in Canada, there's actually no obligation at all for small businesses, medium-sized businesses to report when they have been breached or hacked, unless they're under some sort of compliance regimen like healthcare or something like that. They don't have to say. And as you can imagine, most companies don't want to say when they've been breached. They're not going to talk about it. So you're not going to hear about them a lot unless they are bigger. But some Canadian examples recently, the Liquor Board of Ontario was hit by a cybersecurity incident that knocked out their website and mobile app. We remember when we were in the midst of COVID in Alberta, the Alberta government actually had a breach on their vaccine record site where some people got the wrong records and such like that. Just last month, the sick kids of Toronto Hospital got hit by a ransomware attack. So those are just some Canadian examples. Cisco, that deals with security and all that, that is their bread and butter. They were actually recently hit with an attack where employees' credentials were compromised, even right down to KFC and Taco Bell. So nobody is immune at all from these attacks. Nobody is kind of safe from getting hit. And that's what I really want to kind of point out. Lastly, I wanted to point out, because this was kind of of interest to me, you may have heard of ChatGPT that has come out, and everybody seems to be talking about it recently. Schools are talking about it because it gives students a chance essentially to cheat or plagiarize by having it write essays and papers for them. But sorry, but cybersecurity experts are also saying that hackers and cyber criminals can actually use this program as well to write phishing emails for them, for example, or to assist them in social engineering. So the point of this is that bad actors, threat actors, are constantly looking for new ways to get your information get into you. So you always want to be aware of those. So let's look at some of those top threats and dive into how they have evolved over the years. So what I wanted to do actually is first is I'm going to put up a poll, and I'm just going to ask a really quick and easy question. What do you think is the #1 threat source for small and medium-sized businesses? So I'll pop that up and give a few seconds for people to answer. But what do you think is the #1 source of threat to businesses in general, your business? What do you think?
I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff that's going on. Could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I think the answer might actually surprise people, and we'll go through the threats, and I'll actually give the answer after I've gone through the top threats, because I think that I think people might be surprised. All right. So let's look at those. So let's look at some of those threats. We're going to start with phishing. I think everybody's heard of phishing. Everybody kind of has a pretty good idea of how it works. Phishing is simply somebody sending an unsolicited email. It may look like it's coming from something else, like a SharePoint or OneDrive for Business, or maybe it's coming from Apple or Amazon. Usually it looks like that. We may find that we can identify them. And I'm just going to come over here to a quick example. And you can see this here. This looks like a pretty legitimate email. You see that you've received a new shared document. It looks like OneDrive. It looks like you've got your OneDrive for Business logo. So it seems like a fairly legitimate, legitimate email, right? And the point in showing this is just coming back to this, that when we look into these things, over a third of respondents say they're not confident that their employees would be able to correctly identify a phishing attack in real time. That means you're going through your day, an email pops up, it looks like this. Are you able to identify this as a phishing email right off the bat? Right?
And
Go ahead.
Mike, the funny story here. So, True Methods being a Kaseya company, Kaseya has a lot of different types of products under its umbrella, and one of them is a program called Bullfish that helps companies deploy these fake phishing scams to see what people click on. And so they actually use Bullfish internally on us, and we're supposed to be like the cybersecurity experts. And a lot of people here at my company have fallen for these phishing emails. So even the experts sometimes can't tell the difference between these things. We have to be super extra careful with everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the thing with these emails is they are super subtle, right? They don't go in there with, like a hand-drawn logo or anything like that. They're taking their time to make sure these look exactly or as close as they can get to a legitimate email, right? And the only thing that you would probably notice about this that might tip you off is, I mean, first of all, you look at that email address there, right? From update@sharepoint.ms. Doesn't necessarily look like a legitimate. It might be close, might be not, right? The next thing you're going to look at is that subject. If this was a real email, the first thing you would see is it would tell you what document it is. And within this email here, it would also tell you who it's coming from. The fact that this is a pretty anonymous email and is coming to you unsolicited, that should be your major clue that this might be phishing. And when you click on the click here button or whatever not, you're going to come to a site that looks almost exactly like Microsoft's site. The difference is, and I've tried this, just for fun, no matter what information you put into the username and password, it's going to let you in, right? So I've done, I@amnotstupid.com, and password as yeah, right, lets you in, right? Because all they're looking for is that information. And once you put that information in, it's already too late, right? It lets you in, it goes to a page that may look like a document or may have malware attached to it. But by the time you put that information in, that's what they were looking for. And it's already too late. They've got that, they've recorded it, and now they can use it.
Another clue there, I think, is the grammar structure in that sentence. So it is said to be important. Not that that's actually wrong, but it's a little sort of unusual, a little bit sort of awkward. So whenever there's wording that's not as flowy as maybe one would expect from a company like this, that's also a giveaway for these phishing emails.
If it looks like they didn't run it through Grammarly, then it may be phishing. So phishing has evolved, and the thing with phishing is it's a wide net, right? They just send that out to whoever they can, and if they get 2 or 3 people, they're having a good day, right? But that's evolved from phishing, and they've moved into spear phishing. Spear phishing is a far more pointed attack. Typically, they're looking for people who are higher up in organizations, CEOs, high-level managers, such like that. And they're going to impersonate them down to lower level people to ask for specific things. We may have all seen that email that seems to be one off, hey, Joanne, I need you to grab me a couple of gift cards, right? Can you go to the local store, grab those for me? I'm in a meeting, right? So just reply to me by email, right? Again, if you're not paying attention, these things can look like they are real. Again, here's an example, right? And the thing with these is the name is always going to be somebody in these, right? They're going onto their website and whatever not, and this is a cautionary tale for companies that have got their whole kind of directory on their websites, because that is the information that hackers are looking for, and they're going to use that in their social engineering attacks and their spear phishing attacks, right? If they know that John Thomas is the CEO, that's all they need, right? The things to note here, though, is even though the name might be right, the email address usually is not. So you'll see this is at some yandex.com. If it doesn't match your company, then that's going to be one of your initial things. Oftentimes, these are going to come from Gmail to make it a little bit harder to check out. But typically, your CEO, your boss, they're not going to email you up from their Gmail account to ask you to do something business-wise, right? What they're asking for can be, again, a myriad of things. It can be anything from this one, I need to change some banking information, right? Or it may be something like, again, we need to grab some gift cards for a client or something like that. They don't ask for a lot in these because the aim is to get you sucked into a small thing, and then they're going to slowly ramp it up to bigger things. Before you know it, you've done something like you've given them some credentials, or you've actually bought something and sent it off, somewhere, and they've got that. So those are the kind of email direct vectors of getting attacked, right? The next one that we have is ransomware. And again, we've heard of ransomware, and the key point with ransomware is once you've got it, you're not going to see things happen right away. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't see this coming. I didn't know I got ransomware. The next day my computer was just, weirded out. So it obviously wasn't something I did because it happened overnight, right? And the way ransomware works, it's a program just like any other, right? And one of the things these ransomware programs do is they'll lie low, right? They're not going to do anything when you're watching your computer, when you're right in the middle of it, because then you're likely going to do something about it. Uh, these ransomwares, most of them, they're going to lie in wait until your computer is idle, right? Once your computer is idle, it hasn't been used for a while, usually in the evening, especially in a lot of bigger companies, they don't turn off their computers every night, right? They're just left on. So once the computers are idle, that's when they're going to start doing the work. And the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to turn off the antivirus on your computer, right? With your antivirus off, now that program can do basically whatever they want to, right, on your computer. And they're going to go into the system, they're going to get on your computer, and they're going to start moving throughout the network onto other computers. So you're going to come in the morning or whenever you're back at the office, and your files are going to start to look different. So if you look at this example here, you'll notice that all the files suddenly have this Mogera attached to the end. When you start clicking on your document or your PNG or whatever, nothing's going to happen. Your computer is going to say, oh, we can't open that file. It's an unknown file type. Now, on your computer, there is going to be one file that you are able to open. It's usually going to be a text file, and it's going to say, guess what? You've been caught. Your files are encrypted, you've got ransomware, and the only way you're going to get this stuff back is by paying us. So the thing with ransomware is it's not a personal thing. They're not looking for you specifically. They're looking for anyone. Ransomware is typically going to come from one of these email vectors where you've clicked on something, gone to a website that has silently installed this malware on your computer, right? And all they're looking for is if they can get you, pay to get your files back. Now, paying to get your files back does not guarantee that you are going to get your files back. And that's one of the real important things you have to think about, because if they think they can get more money out of you, they will keep pushing until they think they've gotten whatever they can get. The only real good way to stop these ransomwares from happening is, number one, not getting caught in the first place. And that means being aware for phishing and spear phishing. It also is having a good backup, because once a ransomware is on your system and is going through those infected systems, you're either going to have to pay or you're going to have to restore from a backup. And those are really your only two choices. So you want to definitely make sure that you are watching out for those and making sure that you're not getting hit, because once you are hit, you're going to have downtime. There's just no two ways about it, unfortunately.
And a lot of people think that something like Microsoft is automatically going to back up their data, and it doesn't. There's some things that companies like Microsoft are responsible for, and there's some things that are definitely not. And Sagewood can help you out with actually having things in the right place.
Which brings up a good point, a good time to say next month's webinar is actually going to be on backing up, on cloud backing up. And we're actually going to talk very specifically about why, if you've got your stuff on Google Workplace or on Microsoft 365 infrastructure, you still have to be careful, because their backups are only in the case of their errors. It's not in the case of your errors. So as a quick example, if you've got a file in your Office 365, you delete it today, 3 months down the line, you realize that, oh, I shouldn't have deleted that, I need it. Microsoft is not going to be there for you in that case. So having a good backup, even of your cloud documents, is very, very critical, very critical. So let's move on to the last one that I wanted to note in here today, because it is really, really new. And this is one that's called phishing. You may or may not have heard of phishing, but really it's a mix of the old and new tactics. And because hackers and cyber criminals are constantly looking for new ways, sometimes the best new way is actually an old way. So this is the way phishing looks to you. So you're going to get a phishing or a spear phishing type of email. And because you are smart and you have been doing your security awareness training and all that kind of stuff, you're going to ignore it or you're going to delete it. Good on you. Perfect. You've done it right. But what happens next is because the hackers have looked up your information online already, you're going to get a phone call later, right? So it's mixing this kind of new phishing and spear phishing with the kind of old phone scams, right? So they're going to call you up and they're going to say, hey, did you receive that email that I sent you about such and such and such? You're going to say, oh, yeah, but I thought it was phishing or a spam email. They're going to say, oh, yeah, no, we get that, but no, it's totally legit and we need you to do XYZ. They're going to use those social engineering tactics. They're going to befriend you, basically. They're going to get you to trust them because that's what this is all about. The social engineering is getting you to trust them enough to do whatever. They're going to ask you maybe to put some credentials into a certain website they're going to send you for whatever reason, or small things like that, right? You're going to do that, and that's where they've got you again. Once you've fallen for that, they've got your credentials, and they're going to use those credentials to again get into your system and do whatever else they want to do at that point. So it's kind of like those, in the 80s and 90s, we had those Nigerian prince scams. I don't know if you remember those,
I
where
do.
you get the emails, saying I'm a Nigerian prince and I've got, X amount of money that I need help getting out of the country, or I'm a, banker at the bank and, somebody left their bank account idle for so long and I need you to help me get the money out or whatever not. It's kind of like that, except for in this case, the currency that they're trying to get is they're trying to get your username, your passwords, any sort of credentials that they can, so that they can then use that in order to get into your systems and move from there. So again, what does all this mean for your company? And anytime you're hit by a ransomware or phishing or anything like that, it can have real implications for your company, right? It can expose you to legal action if people's private information is leaked or compromised, right? It can give your competitors an advantage over you if they can say, hey, these people aren't safe with their data, but we are, right? It can also be a big disadvantage if that information gets out, right? If that information gets out, it gets into the public or into the media, that can do real damage to your reputation, right? You can lose future business, again, if people aren't able to trust your business, right? So there are lots of different ways that this can really affect your business if you get caught into these things, right? And so we want to keep those in mind as we think about all these threats and stuff like that. And yeah, it's easy enough to say, oh, well, what are the chances of me getting hit with this? I'm just a small business, it doesn't matter. And you may be right, right? You may be right that the chances could be relatively low. I would suggest they're not as low as you think they are, but I like to tell people it's like this. It's like when you get a lottery ticket, right? What are the chances of you winning the lottery? Well, I mean, you can see them as fairly low. Do people win? Yes. Do people win big? Yes. Well, this is exactly the same, except for this is the world's worst lottery. And if you win this lottery, it's going to do just as much damage as winning a real lottery can do good in your life or in your business. So you do definitely want to be aware of these and wary of them because they can do significant damage to even a small business. But I asked before, what is the number one security threat to your business? And here's the answer: people. People are the number one risk to your business. Human error is the major factor in the majority of breaches, hacks, and such like that. Misaddressed emails, lost or stolen devices or passwords, confidential data that's sent to the wrong place. People, human error is literally the number one risk to your business because they're the ones who've got that access to your business data, right? In fact, 63% of insider-related incidents can be traced back just to negligence or carelessness. Oops, I didn't realize that I sent this document to the wrong address. It was, something.ca instead of something.com, right? Or it was, I sent it to an info account, info at whatever account instead of sending it to a specific person in a company. Small things like that are probably the biggest things that give lead to these attacks coming into your company. People not paying attention to an email coming in, clicking on it before they've really taken a look at it to make sure that it's not a phishing or a spear phishing email. And as you've seen, it's so easy to miss the signs of what is a phishing, or especially those spear phishing emails, right? They're easy to click on without really thinking about it. Before you realize, you've clicked on the email and you didn't realize that, oh, wait a second, you weren't actually waiting for a document from anybody. Why did I even click on it? It's already too late.
Just yesterday, I got a text message and a phone call from a friend of mine telling me something about shoes. And I was like, I don't know what shoes you're talking about. And she goes, oh, wrong Heather. And then she called somebody else. And so I know that's an innocent example, but like that's the kind of thing that happens all the time. We could maybe try to deny that I'm not going to get hacked. I'm too small. We can tell ourselves that, even though it's not quite right. We can't tell ourselves that people don't make mistakes. Can't do it.
Exactly. And it's easy enough, right? And you don't have to be in a law firm for a mistake to be big. Let's say you're in promotional items, right? And you send a logo and all that kind of stuff to the wrong other business. Now you've given one business's information about what they're doing to another business. That can be a big deal. If you're in the medical field, and I know medical people hate using emails and such like that, but when they do, you can even fax to the wrong number, right? 1-800-943-2821 versus 1-800-943-2827, right? And just small.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I worked for a background screening company, and I was always very surprised that I could send people's social security numbers and give them away over the phone. No problem. It was addresses I had to be more careful with the rules, but even that, like sometimes it would slip through a fax, and sometimes you'd get the wrong person on the phone, and you'd really be surprised by how many people could have your information, and then that just is more people that could spread it inappropriately by accident or otherwise.
Absolutely. So how do we protect ourselves from all of this stuff? There are 7 really easy ways. Well, easy for me, I'm a tech guy. But there's 7 ways that you can definitely protect yourself and your systems from attack. Number 1, the easiest one, is keep your computers up to date, right? Making sure those Windows updates are done. The vast majority of Windows updates are actually security updates. Their engineers notice that there's a security hole within their programming. They patch that hole, they send it out in an update, right? They have, especially Microsoft, has what they call Patch Tuesdays, right? And as a tech guy, we're always looking for Patch Tuesday to see what's coming out and what's the latest, so that we can stay ahead of attack vectors and security trends, right? But making sure your computer is up to date always is one of the major things that you can do, right? Within those updates, there's always the Windows Defenders updates as well. So you definitely want to have your computer absolutely up to date as much as you can so that you know that if there are exploitations to the programs that you use or windows that you use, that those are being plugged and they're being proactively taken a look at. So another big one, and this is one that I see especially small businesses kind of fall prey to a lot because again, they don't see themselves as big, as big targets for being attacked. But your network and your perimeter, right? Making sure you've got a firewall, in place. And the thing is, right, in Alberta, we've got the major two are TELUS and Shaw. You get with them, you get, even when you get their business accounts, they'll send you that box and you plug it in and you've got internet and you're happy, right? The thing is, those boxes that the ISP gives you, they are not firewalls. They are not meant to protect your network from, well, anything. They're not meant to protect your network from anything, right? If a hacker gets into your network, right, that box that you're getting from your ISP is not going to help you at all. You want to make sure that you are looking at your network, that you've got a firewall in place, that your firewall is set up properly, right? Because yeah, you can buy, firewalls or protected routers and such like that off the internet, off of Amazon or whatever not. But if they're not set up properly, they're not protecting you like they need to. So you want a business grade firewall. You want something that's from Cisco or Fortinet, or Meraki, something like that. You want to make sure that you've got something that is going to actually protect your business assets. So the next way that you can protect yourself is having access and permissions control. Not everybody in your company needs to have access to everything on your network. And I think a lot of us know that kind of intrinsically, but again, because it's easier sometimes to just have one password for everything, or just have it easier so you can, tell John in the cubicle beside you, can you grab this file and do it? But the principle that in the tech world we really like to go with is zero trust. That means we assume that anybody trying to access information is not trusted until they are trusted, right? And that's important because if John happens to be a disgruntled employee and he's going to leave tomorrow and he's got access to stuff that he shouldn't have, again, you're at risk. You're putting your infrastructure, you're putting your information at risk. And it only takes one person to compromise a system totally. So you want to make sure that you have access controls on especially your key documents. You want to make sure that only people who need access to information have that information. So again, identity and authentication, password security, these are keys. So I pulled this up just a couple of days ago. These are the most common passwords from 2022, not from 2012, not from 2000. These are last year's most popular passwords. You'll notice that the most popular passwords used are super easy. And the thing that we don't understand with passwords is, when somebody is trying to gain access to your system, they have programs, and the program simply just goes through letter from character to character until they get something that works, right? If you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a password, you might as well have no password because it takes a hacker about 2.5 minutes to get through that type of password. If you have a password that's password, again, might as well not have a password, right? These easily guessable words and number combinations are a hacker's dream when they come to accessing information. So you need to make sure that your passwords are hard passwords. Passphrases are great, rather than passwords. So instead of having a password of, fanciful feet, right? Have a password like my children are the best children in the world, right? Change the A's to @ symbols and the E's to 3's, And now you've got a really great password that's easy for you to remember and very hard for hackers to get in. The other thing that you can look at is using password using password managers. So those programs like OnePass or Passly that are going to manage the passwords for you. They're going to give you a big, long, complex password, and all you have to do, as long as that password is open, is click copy and paste into the programs that you need it to. Of course, you also want to look at 2FA or MFA, which is two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, as a second way of protecting your documents. And basically, all that 2FA or MFA is, if you want an easy way to remember it, it's something you know and it's something you have. So something you know is your password, right? You're going to type that in, making sure that it's not one of these top 10s, but typing it in, and then it's going to ask you to authenticate yourself with something you have. Now, 9 out of 10 of us have our cell phones with us almost 24 hours, right? You get a ding to your phone, it sends you that one-time code via text message or via an app, and now you've got really good protection on your system. If a hacker was to get your password, then again, that next thing that's going to come to your phone and you're going to say, oh, wait, I didn't do that. You're going to say no. And again, that's another barrier for hackers to get in. So very important having good password hygiene. Regular security risk assessments. I can't stress this enough. You can't just set your security. It's not a once and a done thing, right? Just like hackers and cyber criminals are constantly looking for new ways. Now, we are looking for new ways to protect you every single day. But again, it's a cat and the mouse game. So we think of a new way to protect, a hacker thinks of a new way to get around it. But if you just have if you put your security in place, maybe when you got into a new building or when you set up your internet the first time around and you think it's done, it's not, because there's constantly holes, there's constantly new things that are coming out. So you definitely want to make sure that you are regularly checking your security, regularly making sure that your password policies are up to date and up to snuff. You want to make sure that your access control is still serving your purposes. Right? And those are things that an MSP like us here at Sagewood can help you with, right? We are pros at doing these constant checks and making sure that things are up to date and partnering with you to make sure that those are in place as well, right? You shouldn't have to be worrying about this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because to be perfectly honest, that's my job. So, and then you want to look at advanced email security. And this is important too. Like we said, the majority of the attack vectors and the way that people are going to attack you is through email. So having advanced email security is going to save you a lot of pain and a lot of trouble down the road if something happens, or in fact, it's going to stop something from happening in a lot of different cases. Advanced email security is looking through those emails as they come in before they hit your inbox. They're looking for signatures of attack. They're looking for signatures of spam, of phishing, of spear phishing, and they're going to stop a lot of those before they ever get to your inbox. So having advanced email security, again, very, very important. Lastly, security awareness training. Training your staff, making sure that you're aware of what these things look like so that when they do happen in the real world, you can actually identify them. Security awareness training is something you should be doing at least every couple of months. At worst, you should be doing them at least bi-yearly so that you can continuously take a look and continuously make sure that your staff knows and that you know what these new threats look like and what you should be looking for, making sure that your skills are up in this. And it's just like any other skill, identifying these. Just like a sommelier can identify a good wine from a bad wine, we want you guys to be able to identify a good email from a bad email.
And it might seem sort of implausible to kind of be able to get everybody together and do this training, putting this time aside, and taking people away from their regular jobs to learn this. But this is definitely a case. It's been proven time and time again. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's going to be so much easier, as Mike said before, to stop these things from happening to begin with than it is to kind of clean up the mess. And this is one of the big ways to stop it before it happens.
Sure. As an MSP owner and as a technician, to be perfectly honest, and I'll even put it. I saw a comic one day, not too far from now, and it had two boxes. In the first box, it had an IT person and a boss, and at the top it said, "When everything is going well." And the boss person was saying to the IT person, "What do I pay you for?" Right? And then in the second box, it said it was identical. So there was still the boss and there was still the IT person. And it said at the top, it said, "When everything is going wrong." And the boss person was saying to the IT person, "What am I paying you for?" Right? To be honest, I rather be in the first box. I rather you be wondering what you're paying me for because everything is going well than wondering what you're paying me for because things are falling apart. Right? And all of these points that we're going through, these are the ways we make sure that things don't fall apart, that all hell doesn't break loose. And we would prefer that we have you and nothing ever goes wrong because we've got those protections in place. That's our best case scenario, rather than going down the road, something major happens and we say, "Oh, we should have done this," or maybe you should have done that, or maybe you should have done the other thing. Right? Like you said, an ounce of prevention definitely worth a pound of cure. So I want to talk just in the last few minutes that we have a little bit about what we do and how Sagewood actually can help you to make sure that you are in the category of nothing going wrong. So what do we offer? Peace of mind for your business. To be perfectly frank about it. We're going to secure your devices. We're going to secure your computers, your servers, your mobile devices. If you're into Internet of Things, all that stuff that you have, we're going to make sure that they're secure. We're going to institute those 7 things that we just talked about in the previous slides. We're going to make sure that you've got a password policy in place. We're going to make sure that you've got a firewall that's protecting your infrastructure. We're going to make sure that each computer not only has an antivirus on it, but is actively monitoring. You remember before in the slides, I talked about how ransomware waits until you're not watching your computer. And then the first thing it does is it turns off your antivirus. Well, with an MSP, you have somebody watching that. So if we notice that a computer has their antivirus turned off suddenly, we're going to look at that. We're going to isolate that computer immediately just to make sure that any virus or malware that's on it isn't able to spread. Sorry. Right? We're going to cover all your environments. So if you have a big server room or a small server room right in your office, we're going to make sure that that's secure. If you've got all your stuff in the cloud, we're going to make sure that that's secure there as well. We're going to make sure that you've got security no matter where you have your information. And we're also going to perform all those functions that we talked about, making sure that you've got security awareness training in place. We're going to make sure that those updates are constantly being done on your computer automatically so that you're not having to worry about it. We're going to make sure that by partnering with you, that you have got the best protection possible so that you can concentrate on running your business, not on running your computers. So just before we do questions, I do have an offer for anybody who's here and is interested. The offer is this: free lunch on me and a bit of a consultation. I'll meet with you at a local restaurant. We'll bring lunch to your office if you'd like, and we'll do a bit of a consultation. We'll talk about we'll talk about your security posture. We'll take a look at your systems. We'll talk about what you have, and if there are any ways that we can help you, if there are any spots that you need to kind of up the game a little bit that we can assist you with, then we're happy to do that as well. So all you have to do to get in on that, real easy. I'm going to launch a poll. Just say yes. Would you like a consultation, a free lunch? Sounds great. Awesome. Go ahead and say so. If not, that's all right. If you'd like us to put you on our mailing list, we send out an email each month with great blog posts about various topics, from security to cloud-based backups to practically anything on a tech basis. So if you are interested, like I said, go ahead and just click yes in that poll. And other than that, I will open it up to any questions if we have any questions. And yeah, we'll go from there.
And you know, Mike, I can guarantee that anybody that meets with you is going to come away with something useful that they can take back to their office. Even if they don't end up working with you, I don't know why they wouldn't. But even if they don't end up working with you, you're going to get value out of this meeting. It's going to be educational, and it's not going to be like a runaround. It's not. We're not here to like take your money and like be annoying and nothing like that. It's, you know, the world kind of costs money. It's just kind of how it is, but it's more of an educational perspective, and just trying to help people and be there for people and provide value in our community.
Absolutely. You know, what I really pride myself in is being a partner to business, not just another utility that has to be paid, right? When we partner with companies, our main aim is to be a part of your business's success, right? In fact, we don't see ourselves as successful unless we are contributing to your success as well. And we see that as one of the ways that we are very different from, you know, others out there, because your success is far more important to us than if we can sell you something or whatever not. And if your success means just giving a consultation and you come out with, you know, one thing that you can do differently, then I see that as a success.
Yep.
Well, last but not least, I will happily open it up to any questions that we have. I don't know if anything's popped up in the chat or in the Q&A.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now. But I think you did a thorough job, you know, covering everything. So yeah.
I like hearing that I'm thorough. Awesome. Well, I mean, if there aren't any questions or anything like that, or anything in the chat, then we'll call this a day. We will be back at this next month, doing another session. The next session will actually be on cloud backups and protecting your cloud infrastructure. So I think that'll be a very interesting one. Emails will be going out about that in a couple of weeks, and we'll be back here. Myself and Heather will be back as my lovely co-host, and we'll have another lunchtime meet and talk about another interesting tech subject.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next time.
Absolutely. Have a super one.